Hey, we got a problem here where we're supposed to find the center, vertices, foci, and asymptotes of a hyperbola, and then we're supposed to sketch it. Now, I picked one where it is in this form rather than this form. So instead of getting your branches on the left and right, we're going to get our branches above and below. So let's get rid of this entire thing because we're only going to need these formulas that are here on the right. Okay, so now we've got it down to just those formulas. And in our problem, we need to identify our A and our B. So in order to match up with the form that we have right here, I'm going to put this one over 1 squared. And instead of thinking this is 4 squared, I can think about it as 2 squared. So that way I just figured out that my A is 1 and my B is 2. Okay, so now I need the vertices. And the vertices are these points right here. But normally they would be something in the form of 0, comma A and also negative A. But in this case, we have a shift. So by having this plus 1, it ends up shifting things to the left by 1. So that means that I'm going to need to modify this formula. So that way, instead, it's actually going to be negative 1, comma, plus or minus A. And since we said A is 1, then it's going to have vertices at negative 1, comma, plus or minus, well, 1. Okay. Now the next thing we can talk about is the center. That was actually the first thing that they asked us for. Now the center is normally at 0, 0, but because of the 1 shift that we don't have a y shift, we have a shift to the left of 1. That means that that thing is going to go to the left, and our center is going to be at negative 1, 0. All right, we also need our foci, and that is supposed to be at plus or minus c, but there's a formula to get c. So in our case, our c squared is going to be 1 squared plus 2 squared, which is 5. So that means c itself is the square root of 5. And our foci is also going to get shifted. So again, all these formulas, they need to be shifted. So our 0 is going to turn into a negative 1, and then it's going to be plus or minus root 5. So those are our foci. Those are actually 2 points right there. The next thing we need are our asymptotes. So your asymptotes are in this form, but because instead of having x, we now have x plus 1, I should put x plus 1 here instead of just x. So that means our asymptote is going to be y equals plus or minus a over b would be 1 over 2, and then parentheses x plus 1. And that's it. And if you want to distribute the 1/2, you can. I'm not going to. Okay, so now we need a graph that is centered at negative 1, 0. So let's just put over here will be negative 1. And that's going to be our center. And then the next thing I'm going to get in there are our vertices. And we had said our vertices are negative 1, comma, positive 1. And also negative 1, comma, negative 1. So now we got those vertices in there. Now we might as well also get our foci in there. Root 5 is a little bit more than root 4, so it's going to be a little more than 2. So I'll put 2 and negative 2. And then I'm going to make it a little bit above the 2 and a little bit below the negative 2. And those will be our foci. And now our asymptotes, they're going to intersect at our center, which in this case is negative 1, 0. But then these are the asymptotes. So in order for me to sketch those, I know that they're actually going to intersect at my center. And then because of my slope of 1 over 2, I know I can go up 1 over 2 units. So if I go up 1 over 2, then that means I would have another point right there. Now, that point is just for the asymptote. So I'll just make a dotted line right there. And then it's plus or minus 1 over 2. So the other asymptote would have to be like over here. I don't know why I said like, but that's okay. It's fun. Everybody likes like. Now on the other side, we need to go to the left by 2. So let's just make 2 more units going this way. And up 1 to the left by 2, down 1 to the left by 2, and we can continue our asymptotes and go out there, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so now it's time for the ultimate best part where we finally get to sketch the hyperbola. And we need to remind ourselves that the hyperbola is going to go through this point, and it's going to have to hit our asymptote. It's going to have a little bit of a bend to it. So it's gonna look something like that. And then on the other side, same story. Gotta have a little bit of a curve, and it's gotta hug your asymptote. Now the foci thing is not part of your hyperbola, so you don't actually include that as part of one of your branches. Now this one is just a little bit tough because it's like almost horizontal. I'd have to like keep going if I want to make it look a little bit more bendy, but that's okay. This one doesn't have to be super bendy. And then again, our foci, it's not actually part of our graph, but there are your foci. And now we can just label this with the equation, and our equation was this, and that should take care of it. You might want to label your foci with the coordinates -1, √5, and also his twin -1, -√5. But that's it. We did all of the problem. All right. Don't forget, I like subscribers. I don't dislike them.